So we'll talk about 18FT305 Basics of Fiber, Yarn and Fabric Manufacturing. We'll start with Unit 3, that is called Yarn Manufacturing. In that, the lesson 1, when you are talking, it talks about the fiber and yarn numbering system. We commonly call it as count. So yarn number, that is the count, and in this particular lesson we will talk about this different numbering system in the yarn. This has of great significance because in this textile industry, count or the yarn number is very important. It is nothing but the fineness of the yarn or the thickness of the yarn. And there are various ways it can be expressed depending upon whether it is a spun yarn or it is a filament yarn. Normally, the spun yarn is getting designated by indirect system of numbering, and there is a different formula, and direct system means the filament yarn. So that there is a different formula and different designation of count for that. And there are also the conversion systems. So these are the common terminologies used in the textile industry. So indirect system of expressing yarn number and direct system of expressing the yarn number. So those things we will see in this particular lesson. Now yarn number or count, when you are talking, so you can see the different kind of packages are there, different colored threads are there. So, but we must know about the thickness of this, whether it is a coarser yarn or whether it is a finer yarn. So those things are very important to us. Now count then is a numerical value and which express the coarseness or fineness. Fineness also talks about the diameter of the yarn, and it indicates the relationship between length and weight, that is the mass per unit length or length per unit mass of that yarn. So that is called the yarn number. Now there are various yarn numbering systems are available. Let us see those. Now yarn count is expressed by direct system or indirect system. Now yarn count, as we have seen different packages, the different yarn is having different fineness or different thickness. Now direct yarn numbering system, that is the mass per unit length, and there are other types of numbering systems available such as indirect yarn numbering system. So that is called length per unit mass. So these are the two yarn numbering system available in the textile industry. Now let us see which is a direct yarn numbering system and what are the things available into this. As you can see, it is a synthetic yarn package and continuous filament yarn such as the viscose, rayon, polyester, etc. So here the count number is very important. Okay. Here higher the count number, the coarser the yarn, and the lower the count number, finer the yarn. So this is the system available before us in the direct yarn numbering system, and this is applicable for the continuous filament yarn, viscose, polyester, nylon, etc. Now after this direct yarn numbering system, let us see now what are those yarn numbering systems available. Number 1 is the denier. Okay, it is normally expressed by D. So unit of weight is number of grams and unit of length is 9000 meter. Similarly, Tex number of grams and unit of length is 1000 meter. Decitex, what do you mean by decitex? Number of grams and 10,000 meters. So similarly, millitex, kilotex are also available, and also it is available the jute industry. So a different kind of system is available, and 14,400 yards there is the system, and silk count is also available. Okay, number of dram kind of thing. So 1000 yards are there. So we can see the direct yarn numbering system, and this is mainly useful for the continuous filament yarn. Now let us see what is the formula used to calculate the direct yarn count system. Let us see the formula of count calculations for this direct yarn. And direct system of counting, as we already mentioned, the weight of a fixed length of yarn, and it is determined, and the weight per unit length is the yarn count. So this is the formula that as is shown in the picture. So here, by using this formula, direct yarn count we can get it. Now major direct numbering system, if we take for as an example, we can see the filament yarn and denier of this yarn, how it is getting expressed. So denier is nothing but 9000 into grams divided by meters. So that is the denier. So denier is the weight in grams of 9000 meters of yarn. So 30 denier, suppose if we tell, what does it indicate? So 30 denier, it indicates that 9000 meters of yarn weighing 30 grams. So that is called the 30 denier. So this is a system of a direct numbering system. Now second system is that called Tex. Tex is nothing but 1000 into grams divided by meters. So this is used for again some polyester filament yarn or nylon yarn. So Tex means what? It is the weight in grams of 1000 meters of yarn. And again, if we mean 30 Tex, what does it indicate? So 30 Tex indicates that 1000 meters of yarn weight is 30 grams. So that is called the Tex. So this is also one of the major direct numbering system. Now let us go into the indirect yarn numbering system. What does it mean? Now this is the coarser yarn. As you can see, the cotton yarn is a coarser yarn, and most of the cotton blended yarns like acrylic cotton or rami cotton, this kind of system is getting followed. So that is called the indirect yarn numbering system. Here how the expression will be: higher the count number, the finer the yarn. Similarly, the lower the count number, the coarser the yarn. So in this fashion, the indirect yarn numbering system goes, and specifically for cotton yarn. Let us see the different kind of indirect yarn numbering system. One is called the English count or NE, and here unit of length is 840 yards and unit of weight is 1 pound. Similarly, the metric count, if you see, what is the metric count? NM, that is the 1000 meters, okay, and that weigh actually it is 1 kg. So different systems of yarn is having the different unit of length and unit of weight. Similarly, the woolen yarn is having 256 yards, weight is 1 pound. Linen also 300 yards weighing 1 pound. Worsted 560 yards weighing 1 pound. So you can see that different kind of numbering systems are available in the indirect yarn numbering, and this kind of numbering system is applied to the span yarn category normally where the continuous filament length is not there. So that's why the indirect yarn numbering system. Now formula used to calculate the indirect system. What is the formula of calculating this yarn numbering system indirect way? So this is L into W is equal to W into L. So number of unit length per unit mass. So variable length, constant weight. So that should be the motto. So here in this formula you can see the N is equal to yarn count or numbering system, W is equal to weight of the sample, and length is expressed by L. So N, W and L is expressed here to calculate the indirect yarn count system. Small l is equal to unit of the length of the sample and small w is equal to the unit of weight. So that is the way this indirect yarn count system goes. Major indirect numbering system, if we take for example, what are those? One is the cotton count, and this count is called English count also, NE. So yarn length is given in yards per 840 and yarn weight is 1 pound. So in this fashion the indirect system goes. So a skein of 26,880 yards weighing 1 pound, calculate its English count. If we try to solve this, we can see the cotton count is equal to 26,880 divided by 840 is equal to 32 NEC, that is the cotton count. So in this fashion we can calculate the count of particular yarn. There is also different methods of counting system, that is called the metric count. That is the length of the yarn in meters divided by weight of yarn in grams. So that is called metric count. Now in this indirect system, cotton count, that is length divided by 840 yards, and metric count is length per weight, that is the 1 kg. And there is a conversion formula that is also shown here. 1 Nm is equal to Ne into 1.693. So this is the conversion from cotton yarn count to the metric system of count. So these are the examples of major indirect numbering system which are followed in the industry. Now let us see that when there is doubling or twisting, how this count varies. So there comes the resultant count calculations, like such kind of yarn, okay, twisted yarn or double threads. So using a direct count system, the resultant count, how it will be? So count 1 plus count 2, and then takes plied if it is takes 1 plus takes 2, and this is the direct system, direct count calculations. But when we go into the indirect count system, so 1 divided by resultant count is equal to 1 by count 1 plus 1 by count 2. So then 1 by that particular plied count is equal to 1 by any one, first one, and second one ply is 1 by any 2. So two formulas are different for the resultant count calculations. One is called the direct count system and second one is called the indirect count system. Now resultant count calculations when you are making for any filament yarn. So a 2-ply yarn in Tex is composed of one thread like 40 Tex, one thread is unknown count, and resultant count we know 100 Tex. Now problem is here that what is the count of the other component of the yarn. So this formula can be used there. Since it is a direct count system, so that resultant count is equal to count 1 plus count 2. So 100 is equal to 40 plus count 2. So you can see that another component thread is having the 60 ticks. So that is the resultant count calculations, okay, for a direct system where ticks is used. Similarly, if we see the resultant count calculations of indirect system, 2-ply yarn count of 16 worsted has one component yarn 36. What is the count of other? So here formula is different. 1 by resultant count 16 is equal to 1 by 36 plus 1 by count 1. So here the count 2 we can get it, okay, where we want to measure this count. So it comes 28.8 worsted count. So indirect system of count calculations we have seen here, and we have calculated the resultant count. So there is a count conversion table also is available, how to convert different fibers, okay, of different nature. So in this count conversion table one can really convert the different systems, okay, very easily. So that count conversion table is used in the industry. So let us see the summary of today's lesson, and we can see that we have seen the fiber and yarn making system and the count, okay, and in that we have seen the direct count and indirect count. And direct count system we have seen that there are denier, decitex and tex, and indirect method of counting we got the indirect English count or the metric count, okay, and the worsted count. So that we have covered it in this lesson. Now as we can see that different varieties of yarns are available in the textile industry, like spun yarn and the filament yarn. There are the two basic classifications. So we have seen here the direct system and the indirect system. So indirect system is applicable for the spun yarn category, and direct system is applicable for the filament yarn category. So in this way the count or the thickness of the yarn or the fineness of the yarn is getting calculated, and by which we can get the idea in a fabric that what type of yarn has been used. When you try to do the analysis of a fabric, we then come to know, yes, this particular fabric contains a blend, okay. Now how much percentage of polyester is there, how much percent of cotton is there in that blend, and in that polyester what is the fineness of the yarn, okay, or cotton, what is the cotton count used into that. So ultimately the fabric characteristics will depend upon the count or the denier of the yarn. So that's all. Thank you.